Hello everyone, welcome to the Codeness. In the previous video, we have successfully created the application layer. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you how to create the infrastructure layer for the user. Now, go to the infrastructure layer, entity, and now create a new file called user entity.ts. Now, write the export class user entity. Now, at the field username, then email address, password, role ID is active, created date, updated date. Now on the basis of this user entity, our table will be created on the database. So I'm going to do primary generated column. It will automatically generate the UID, then username at the rate column, and it will require unique because we don't want a duplicate username. Same way I'm going to use for the email also. Now password is just a column at the red column. Now role ID, in this role ID I am going to use the role entity, not this role, because role entity will be make the relation between the user and the roles. Then we can add many to one relationship. Now at the rate join on column the role ID. So in this way I have to mention, it will automatically make the relation between the role and the user table. Now is active at the column. I can set default equal to true. By default all user when created is true. We can say at the rate created date column. Now this for updated date column at the rate updated date column. So in this way I have to create the at the rate entity users. So here the user table name, the table will created on the user, and all are set ready. Now I'm going to create the repository for the user. Now go click a new file. We can create user repository. User repository.ts, export class user repository. Now I have to implement our user repository. So we get implement our user repository. Now just quick fix, cancel, import. You can navigate it. No, not found. Why? Let me correct it. Will coming from, yeah. Now it's working fine. Then we can implement the interface. uh, Control Z. Now I'm going to create one method that will be perform our all the operations. So what we do, we can just copy this line from here and paste. Yeah. So I can change user entity, then this repository from type ORM app data source, our app data source from our data. So in this way we can create the user repository. Now we can implement the method. So we can similarly create as we created in the role. So in the same way I have to create the user. To go back to the other, then constant, can change it to user, then user. Now what is the error? No overloaded call user entity. Okay, this will expect the user, it will coming from the domain, but it expect the user from entity. Now I have to convert this constant user entity is equals to new user entity. Now I'm going to pass this here. Now here we require the user role, not role ID. So I can modify here. I can just correct the spelling, role entity. Now here also. Now here go back to the user entity and we have the role, not role ID. So we can modify here just a role, not role ID. Then we have to this role. Now we have to assign the role to the role entity but not role ID. So what should I do here? We can recall this repository for the user entity, then we can paste here and change the name to role repository. Then we can import to fix and import. So here I have a your role repository. So what should I do? We can fetch it. So what, get role by ID. So here the role by ID. So I'm going to copy this function here, then implement here. So we can say role this dot repo. Now we can pass the role ID to here. Sync. We can resolve all the issue. We cannot return if role not found. Then we can throw the error. Now we can use this role to, yeah. Now all are set. The problem is now we can pass the entity, then role, user ID created. Now we can save the entity. Now is a problem with the return also, because this application return the user entity, not user domain. So we have to modify this also. In the same way, we can write here constant user domain. Now user id dot this. In the same way, we can return here. So what should missing some detail created it and updated it. No, it's fine. In this way, now we can recollect the what we did. We can explain you because it have a more properties. So suppose we are passing here user domain. It's a user domain layers, not for the user entity. But for actual saving, we require the user entity. So I have converted user domain to user entity here. Then we can create and then it will be passed to and save the user entity. Now when it return the user entity, not user domain. Here I convert it from user entity to user domain. In this way it going to be happen. Similarly, in the update operation we can also do that. Sync. Now same functionality we can also create here. Just copy and paste. Now just understand the update logic also. Paste. What we require here, we have to find the just one more thing. No, it's correct. Just find. We have to first find the role based on the ID. If this record existing user, if this existing exists, then otherwise user not found. If we got the existing user, then we have to modify this value in this way. Existing user dot, we can just change here user instead of role. Is a copy paste issue. Then user dot username, then email, then updated it. We have to only modify the updated it, not created it, because it will in a update. Then okay, so here we created. Now we can just call the save. Now in the same way, I have to pass this save entity. In the same way, we have to pass the user entity. Then we can use. Sorry, we forgot to this method. Save. Save. Now save that ID dot id. Now copy and just paste the same thing. Later on we can create the one mapper function to map with domain to user and user to domain, so to you can reuse it and not write again and again this whole code. can move into the mapper file. So we can do it later on. Now we can use this. We completed the update. Now we can get users. So we can create the function constant get users is equals to user entity entity. Then we can to find the user entity. Now I have to convert it constant user user role and all the other fields. Now we can return this user. So here what I did I will explain you, because we get the here the user entity, not the user domain. So I have to convert these entities to the user. So it will give you the list of user entity. Now I have to convert this into the users. So in this way, now similarly we can also get the user by user ID. So constant user is the user entity find by user ID. If not found, then we can return the null. Else, we can create constant constant user entity dot id, then name user entity dot name. Then we can yeah then we can add rest of the property like all those things like user id. The same property I have to use here. Now we can return user. Return user. That's it. Then we use a sync method. Now in the same way we can use the user by delete by users. So we can constant delete by id, then return true. Then also a sync method, then it's fine. Now in the same way we can implement find by id. So constant, so we can make change here with the user name, not the role name, because we have copy paste the user. Then username equals to username. Then I can use the async method, then await. Now, similarly, if not found, then we can return the null. Else, we can similarly we can use, if we can find the user, then we can use single user here. Here the user entity. Now in this way, we have successfully created the user repository. It will be complex and big because we have the multiple field. Then we have to map from domain to entity and entity to domain. So that's why it will took some time. In the next video, we will create or generate the migration for the user entity. Thank you for watching this video.